My name's Thomas Granger, and today I watched my wife with another man, in our own bedroom. I wasn't supposed to be back yet. The client meeting in Lisbon wrapped up early, and I figured I'd surprise her. I pulled into the driveway a little after 3 p.m. and spotted a sleek, charcoal-gray BMW parked dead center like it belonged there. That should have been my first warning. Elise always asked visitors to leave their cars by the curb. I came in through the garage, quiet. The house was still, unnaturally so for a home with 2 kids and a woman who always had music going while tidying up or making lunch. I assumed maybe they were out, but as I walked past the staircase and glanced upward, I heard it. Soft moans, rhythmic creaking from the mattress, and her voice, low but unmistakably hers. I didn't charge upstairs, didn't yell or smash anything. I reached for my phone and tapped record. By the time I stood at the doorway, they were still completely oblivious. I had a clear view of my wife's bare back, arched like a dancer's, her hands gripping the headboard like she'd rehearsed this scene 1,000 times. That's what cut the deepest. 17 years of marriage, 2 daughters, Madeline, 13, and Cora, 11, and I'd never seen that side of her, not with me. She was fierce, unrestrained, saying things I never imagined she'd even think, let alone scream. And the part that wrecked me? She looked like she meant every second of it. I stayed for minutes, recording. It felt like a scene from some gritty indie drama where the protagonist realizes his whole life's been a lie. She never saw me. I didn't speak, didn't fling a chair, didn't shove the guy off her. I simply turned around and walked out. I drove straight to the firm, didn't even process it, just knew I couldn't stay home. Not yet. My assistant of over a decade, Clara, glanced up from her desk as I entered. She opened her mouth to greet me, but I drifted by her like a shadow. Shut the door behind me, locked it, and slumped into my chair, eyes fixed on 2 baby photos I'd recently taken from Elise's drawer. She used to keep 4 photos by the bed, a family snapshot, our wedding picture, and 2 childhood shots of the girls. Only the girls' images were still on display. The rest, ours, were tucked away in the bottom drawer. Even while she was with someone else, she'd left those baby photos out where he could see them. What kind of twisted message was that? I called Bennett. He answered cheerfully. "Tommy, didn't expect to hear from you today. What's up?" "I need your help," I said flatly, and that wiped the cheer out of his voice. "What's going on?" "I came home early, caught her with another man. In our bed, I've got everything on camera." There was a pause. Then, "You want to file for divorce?" "Number, I want something bigger. I want her to feel this. Forever." Bennett sighed hard into the phone. "All right, man. I'll put my team on her. But you'll have to play it cool for now. Think you can handle that?" "I'll do whatever I have to." "Good. And Thomas? Not a word. To anyone." That night, I went home. Elise was in the kitchen. She greeted me with that overly bright, insincere grin she usually reserved for PTA meetings. "Tom, you're back early." "Thought I'd wrap things up at the office," I said calmly. She leaned in and kissed my cheek, like she hadn't just spent the afternoon tangled up with someone else. "Dinner's almost ready. Didn't plan for company, so it's nothing special." "I'm not really hungry." I started for the stairs. The girls ambushed me halfway up. "Daddy!" They squealed, laughing, arms around my waist like the world hadn't shifted an inch. Maybe for them, it hadn't. I hugged them longer than usual, breathing them in like I was trying to memorize the moment. Upstairs, everything was pristine. Bed made, fresh linens. Elise had erased the whole scene with clinical precision, except the 2 missing photos still hadn't returned. She caught me looking at the empty spot on the nightstand. "Oh, sweetheart." I accidentally knocked the frames over while dusting. Had to take them in to get repaired. I gave a quiet nod, said nothing, changed clothes. That evening, we ate in near silence. Normally, dinners in our home are chaotic. Laughter, chatter, someone knocking over a glass. But that night, even the girls felt the shift. Elise kept glancing my way. restless. She could tell something was off. She just didn't know the scale of it. Not yet. After the girls went to bed, I poured myself a bourbon and sank into the chair in my office. She always called it the cave, said it was tacky. But it was the only room that still felt like it belonged to me. I had to dig deep not to reveal anything. Not until I was ready to make it count. The next few days, I played my role. Got up with the alarm, went through the motions, accepted her meals, kissed the girls goodnight, lay in bed beside her like nothing had changed. Elise became increasingly clingy, dropping "I love you" every half hour, complimenting my cufflinks, asking me if I was okay. It wasn't remorse, it was dread. She sensed a fracture, but had no clue how deep it ran. Clara, my assistant, noticed too. She kept casting long glances at the baby photos on my desk, like they were relics of some ancient tragedy. One afternoon, she rapped on the door and slipped inside without waiting. "You doing all right, Tom?" "I'm fine." "You sure about that?" I said I'm fine. She gave a small nod, stood to go, but paused. "If you ever need someone to talk to?" I didn't answer, but I saw the way her gaze lingered on those framed smiles again. She knew, maybe not everything, but enough. Then came the call from Bennett. "Tom, I need you to come by, today." I stepped into his office, and this time he didn't crack a joke or offer a handshake. His expression was tight, like he was chewing glass. "We've got it all. Footage, recordings, chat logs, everything. It's worse than you thought. She's not just unfaithful, she's been lying since before the wedding." I just stared at him. "What did you say?" "Her old flame, Calvin Moreau. They dated all through high school. My guy says he's been boasting for years that he was with Elise the morning of your wedding." I felt my chest tighten. "What?" "Yeah, according to him, she told him you'd be getting the leftovers. His words, not mine." I stood up too fast, and the whole office tilted. "You all right?" Bennett grabbed a cold compress from his mini-fridge and held it to my forehead. "Breathe through it, Tom. Just breathe." "What else?" He hesitated. "You're not going to like it." I gave a dry, cracked laugh. "What more is there to ruin?" Bennett didn't flinch. "The girls. There's a strong possibility they're not biologically yours." That one went through me like a blade. No hard proof without a DNA test, but we've got footage, Elise, Calvin, and the girls, having a picnic at Maplewood Park. The kids called him Dad. They kissed him, clung to him, played frisbee like it was the most natural thing in the world. I collapsed back into the chair. The noise in the room drained away like someone had turned off the world. "You okay?" Bennett asked again, voice gentler now. "Do they know?" He nodded, slowly. "Yeah, they know." I wanted to smash the table in half, wanted to howl, but instead I just sat there, hollowed out, like someone had scooped out everything from inside me. What happens now? You want out? We pursue annulment, grounds of intentional deception. But we've been married almost 2 decades. Doesn't change a thing. You discovered the fraud now. Under the statute, you have 4 years from discovery to file. But if we go that route, it's a clean severance. No child support, no spousal payments, but also no visitation. In the eyes of the court, it's like the girls never existed. I blinked hard. They're still my children. He lifted a shoulder. Legally? Maybe not. Emotionally? That's for you to decide. I didn't sleep that night. Left the house before Elise even stirred and drove straight to Morgan's place. Morgan, real name Raina Caldwell, ran the tech department at our firm. Former Marine, built like a tank, with all the tenderness of a steel trap. But she was loyal to a fault, and her wife, Lena, was the only one I'd ever seen make her smile like a human being. I told them everything, every sick detail. The betrayal, the secrets, the girls, even Clara and that twisted alpha provider garbage Elise had been feeding her sister. Lena blinked. So she wanted a dominant alpha to father the kids and a reliable beta to raise them? That's what Clara told me. God, Morgan muttered. That's not just calculated, that's psychotic. Lena nodded, reaching out to squeeze my arm. You're the real parent here, Thomas. But you don't have to carry this on your own. I tried to laugh, but it caught in my throat. She shattered everything, and now she says she still loves me. Morgan gave me a hard look. You buying that? I think she believes it. And you? I stared at my fingers. I think I was a means to an end. The next day, Elise showed up at my office. Security let her in. My fault. I hadn't filed for a restraining order yet. She stormed in, dressed like she was walking a red carpet. Heels, thick makeup, that self-satisfied little smirk she wore when she thought she was in control. Hi, Thomas. I said nothing. I've been trying to get in touch. Why haven't you answered any of my messages? Still silent. Her eyes landed on the baby photos on my desk. She froze. You were there. I nodded, slow and steady. She dropped into the chair across from me, legs crossed, chin up like royalty humoring a peasant. It's not what you think. I leaned forward. You brought him into our home, into our bed. What else could it be? It was a mistake. How long? She shrugged. A few months. Don't insult me. She sighed. All right, off and on for a few years, but it never meant anything. That's the part that makes it worse. Come on, Thomas. You know I've always loved you. Whatever this thing is with Calvin, it's complicated. I can't really explain it. You don't need to. I already know everything. Her face twitched. Clara? I didn't answer. So what now? She asked, folding her arms like she was the one betrayed. You're going to burn everything down over one mistake? I stood up, braced my hands on the desk. It wasn't one mistake, Elise. You built a life out of lies. You made me believe in something that never existed. You let me raise children that may not even be mine. And now you're here, trying to spin it like it's no big deal? The smirk fell. Watch your tone. Or what? You'll go cry on Calvin's shoulder. She stood too, heels cracking against the tile like warning shots. You want to blow this whole thing up? Fine. Just remember, if you do that, you lose them. You lose everything. They never belonged to me. She froze. That one landed like a punch. You know what's tragic? I said. I was a damn good dad. Gave them everything. Would have stepped in front of a bullet for those kids. Maybe that's the sick part. That's when she cracked. You were so busy playing saint, you forgot how to be a man. I didn't flinch, just stared. She grabbed her handbag, gave me one final glare sharp enough to cut glass. You think this is over? You think you're the one walking away with the win? You're not built for war, Thomas, but I am. Then she turned and stormed out. Later that day, I called Malcolm. File it, I said. You certain? Absolutely. File for annulment. Serve her. You got it. Elise didn't go down quietly. She slammed the office door behind her so hard the frame shook. Then she tore into the room like she owned it. You arrogant piece of garbage, she snarled. You think this makes you some kind of martyr? You think parading me through court makes you noble? She hurled a ceramic mug at me. It missed. Then a thick report binder followed, thudding against the wall. A framed leadership award from the firm exploded as it hit the ground. You spied on me, she screamed. Had people following me like I was some fugitive. I didn't say a word. She charged around the desk and planted herself inches from me. I gave you everything I had, she hissed. Years, my youth. And you repay me with public disgrace? Do you know what you've started? Her hand whipped across my face. Then again. That's when security burst in. But she wasn't done. She reached for a brass letter opener. Didn't stab, just flung it at the wall near my head. It embedded in the drywall, vibrating like it was alive. Don't touch me, she shrieked at the guards. You don't know who you're dealing with. None of you do. They moved fast. Get your hands off me, she twisted, yelling. He's the one who should be dragged out, not me. As they pinned her arms and started guiding her out, she snapped her head back toward me, wild hair clinging to her cheeks, eyes blazing. "You're nothing, Thomas. A faded, gutless man hiding behind rules and paperwork. You really think the girls will choose you after this? They don't even mention your name anymore." I didn't move, didn't say a word, just stared. "I made you!" she screamed as they dragged her toward the door. One final look back, one last cold glance. "I hope you rot alone." Then she spat, not at me, but right on the floor, just inches from my feet. The security team ushered her out. Darian called 15 minutes later. He sounded like he was trying not to laugh. "She showed up, huh?" I wiped the corner of my mouth with a napkin. "Yeah." "She slap you around? Throw a fit? Knock over half the office?" A pause. Then, in a tone as calm as it was satisfied, "Permanent restraining order. No more chances. She just handed us the win." The annulment hearing was set for 60 days later. Darian made sure the media had the date. He said it'd make a statement. Meanwhile, Elise used every trick in the book. She called, texted me late at night, left voicemails that went from pleading to spiteful. "You love me, Thomas, you still do. We can fix this." The next one, "You think this is justice? This is just petty revenge. You're pathetic." And then, "I'll make sure you never see the kids again." She was already doing it. After my lawyer served her, she took Lily and Mackenzie out of state for a vacation. No warning, no goodbyes. That's when I gave up hoping for a clean resolution. One night, I stopped by the Rusty Anchor for a drink. I needed space, quiet, just the burn of whiskey. But Elise was waiting. She stepped out of a black Range Rover, hair perfectly styled, heels clicking against the pavement. She didn't speak at first, just pointed to the car. Inside were Lily and Mackenzie, pressed up against the window. Carson was in the driver's seat, stoic as ever, hands gripping the wheel like it was a lifeline. "They still love you, Thomas," she said. "But if you go through with this, if you make it a war, you'll never see them again." I stared at her. "You're using our daughters as leverage." "I'm protecting my family," she said, voice cold. "They're not your pawns." "They're mine," she said, her voice soft but resolute. "Not yours, not really." I took a step toward her. "You really think this ends well for you?" "If you loved them, Thomas, you'd drop this. You'd come back. We could fix things. You, me, Carson. You want me to share a life with the man you cheated on me with for all these years?" "Not share," she shrugged. "Just accept him." My jaw locked. "Go to hell, Elise." She walked away, but I knew this wasn't over. By the time I left the bar, the city was dark. Streetlights flickered, and the air had turned crisp. I hadn't even made it 2 blocks when I heard a car racing up behind me. Headlights flashing in the rearview mirror. Same black Range Rover. I barely had time to react before it cut me off, swerving across the line, tires screeching. I slammed on the brakes, the car jolting forward. Carson stepped out before the car even came to a full stop. He slammed the door and walked toward me, fast. Jaw tight, eyes locked with mine. I opened my door slowly and got out. "What the hell is this?" I asked, my voice steady but low. He stopped a few feet away. "Elise told you how this works. You said no." "I did. She's trying to protect what's left, and you're dragging everyone through the mud like it's a game." "She's not protecting anyone. She's using the kids to hold me hostage." He pointed at me. "You keep saying that, but you're the one pushing this conflict. You want to be a father? Then stop acting like the enemy." I stepped forward, my voice low but firm. "I'm not going to ignore what she did. I'm not going to sit here, keep quiet, and let her rewrite everything. Not for you, not for anyone." He looked around, his face tight, trying to stay controlled. When he turned back, there was more tension in his voice. "She doesn't want more chaos. Neither do the kids. You know what? She wants control, And she thinks using you will intimidate me. It won't. She wants peace. You're the one standing in the way. I shook my head. Peace isn't built on lies, Evan. There was a pause. Then, in a lower tone, he leaned in. You go through with this, Thomas, and she'll escalate. You won't just lose contact. She'll turn everyone against you, paint you as unstable, vindictive. She's already talking to people. She'll do whatever it takes. I stared at him, trying to keep calm. She sent you to tell me that? She wants you to think about the kids. Don't pretend you care about them like I do. They're not trophies, I said. They're not leverage, and you're not their father. His hands twitched, his jaw tightened. For a moment, I thought he was going to throw a punch, and I wanted him to. I wanted him to hit me, but just as it looked like he was about to, the red and blue lights of a patrol car flashed down the street. The car slowed, and its headlights swept over us like a warning. The window rolled down halfway. Everything okay here? The officer asked. Evan took a quick step back, his fists loosening. I didn't flinch. Yeah, I said, keeping my eyes on him. All good. The officer paused for a moment before driving off. Evan muttered something under his breath as he turned toward the SUV, then got in and drove away. I didn't move. Not for a while. I needed him to know. Next time, there won't be a cop to save him. At Alyssa and Jules's place that night, I told them everything. The SUV, the threats, the kids' faces pressed against the glass. Jules looked like she was about to cry, but Alyssa, she looked furious. She's a narcissist, Alyssa said, her voice sharp. She thinks love is something you can use as leverage. She's winning, I muttered, frustration in my voice. Every time I try to take a step forward, she pulls me back down. She's not winning, Alyssa said, shaking her head. You're still standing. You're not drowning in booze or losing yourself. You're thinking, planning. She's weaponizing the kids. Then don't let her. Becky said, don't let her break you. I wanted to believe them. Then, the following week, Troy walked into my office. Dakota had sent him. Troy was married to her sister, Montana, the quiet, reliable type. He was the one everyone felt sorry for after her affair made waves a few years ago. The guy who took the blame for everything, turning every family gathering into an emotional battlefield. Everyone knew about it, even Montana's kids. But he forgave her, stayed by her side, smiled at holidays like nothing had ever happened. Now, here he was, standing in my doorway, sent by his unfaithful sister-in-law as some kind of peacekeeper. He looked worn down, like a man who had been asked to carry a message he didn't believe in. Troy seemed exhausted, defeated, a man who had already accepted his fate. I offered him a drink, but he declined. He just sat across from me, staring like he was facing an insurmountable cliff. You're here to convince me to forgive her? I asked, not bothering to hide the bitterness. Don't waste your time. I'm not like you. I can't do it. I'm staying with her, he said, his voice flat. Not because I forgive her, but because I still love her, and I'm too old to start over. I nodded slowly. That's your choice, man. What are you going to do? I'm burning it all down. He didn't argue. He understood. The media had a blast with the annulment trial. 18 years of marriage, fraud, DNA tests, private investigators, video footage, the whole package. Andis worked it like a maestro, every move smooth, every word sharp, designed to cut deep. Dakota tried to play the victim, of course. I was confused. Jack was distant. Byron and it was a mistake. But the texts, the pregnancy plans, the recorded conversations, those were harder to explain away. The DNA test confirmed it. Sheridan and Helena weren't mine. I could feel the entire courtroom freeze when the results were read out. Dakota didn't cry. She just blinked. Byron didn't even bother showing up. Andis leaned over, his voice a whisper. You won, partner. It didn't feel like a victory. A month later, late at night, my phone buzzed once. Unknown number, no voicemail. Then another buzz. A text this time. "Dad, it's me. Please don't tell Mom." I froze. Sheridan. My fingers hovered over the screen. The room was dark, the only light coming from the faint glow of my phone in my hand. My heart kicked into overdrive. Another text. "Can we talk?" I called immediately. I could barely hear her words over the blood pounding in my ears. My hands tightened into fists, but I kept my voice low, steady. "Sheridan, look at me." She hesitated, but finally met my gaze, her face pale, eyes wide with something I couldn't name. But the bruise on her arm spoke volumes, words I never wanted to hear about the man who had inserted himself into our lives. "How long has this been going on?" I asked, trying to keep my breathing even. She looked away, biting her lip, and for a moment I thought she might close off completely. But then she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "It started after you left. He said I was too much like you, that I needed to be taught how to behave." My stomach turned. Byron, the man who'd tried to play father to my daughters while hiding behind a mask of charm and manipulation. And now this. Helena clung to my side, her small hands wrapped tightly around my waist, as if holding on to me could shield her from whatever darkness Byron had brought into their world. "Why didn't you tell me before?" I asked gently, kneeling in front of Sheridan. I was trying to understand, but part of me was choking on the guilt. The sense of failure, of being too far removed to see it happening. "I didn't want you to leave forever," she whispered. "Mom said you'd hate us. She said you'd never forgive us if we told you about Byron. She said you'd make us choose." I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something, to unleash all the anger and rage that had built up inside me since this mess began. But I didn't. Not here, not now. I placed a hand on her knee, careful not to make her flinch. "You didn't make any of this happen, Sheridan. You didn't do anything wrong. None of this is your fault." Helena, sensing the tension, looked up at me, her voice small. "Can we go home, Daddy?" My heart shattered in that moment. My girls. I hadn't been there when they needed me most. I should have been there. "I'm not going anywhere," I said, my voice firm. "I'm going to take care of you both. I promise." Sheridan wiped at her eyes, but a tear escaped anyway. "I don't know what to do anymore, Dad. It's like everything's falling apart and I can't stop it." "We'll figure it out together," I said, giving her a soft smile. "I'm not leaving you. I'm here, and I'll always be here." We sat there for a while in silence, my daughters leaning into me, the weight of the situation settling between us like a heavy fog. I didn't know how to fix this. I didn't know what would happen next, but for the first time in weeks, I felt like there was hope. There was a way forward, and it was with them. When we finally stood up to leave, I pulled them both into one last hug, and I promised myself, no more running, no more letting someone else take the reins. From now on, this battle was mine to win, no matter what it took. The officers rushed out, hands on their holsters, shouting at us to stop. Byron and I froze, breathing hard, blood pumping, adrenaline still surging. But I didn't take my eyes off him. "Hands up, both of you," one of the cops barked, stepping between us. I stood there, hands in the air, the rush of anger still crackling through my veins. Byron, though, he just smirked like he knew this would happen. He'd been ready for the consequences of whatever game he was playing. I could feel the heat from the officers' glares as they moved to separate us. One grabbed my arm, the other went for Byron. My breath came out in sharp bursts, but I didn't care. I wasn't going anywhere without making sure they understood. "You know what?" I said, voice shaking with barely controlled fury. "You should be arresting him. Not me." The cop holding me didn't flinch. "We saw what happened, but you were the aggressor here." Byron's face twisted into something between a grin and a grimace. "Yeah, I was just protecting myself," he said, still acting like the victim. I spit out a laugh. "Protecting yourself? From a dad who's been raising his daughters while you've been playing house?" The officer on my side gave me a warning look but didn't say anything. The other cop turned to Byron, his hand still tight around his arm. "You've got a report filed," the cop said, his tone more like a statement than a question. "Assault charges are still on the table for both of you." I leaned forward. "He touched my daughter, bruised her." The cop nodded. "I'll note it. But this isn't the way to handle it, man. We'll be in touch." Byron glared at me, wiping his mouth where blood was trickling down his lip from the hit. "You think this is over, Jack? You think this is gonna fix anything?" I leaned in close, voice low. "You've already lost. The truth's out. And when this is all done, you won't be anywhere near my girls." Byron sneered, his jaw tight. "We'll see about that." The cops pushed him toward the car, and just before they put him in, he turned back once more, looking over his shoulder at me. "I'm their father," he spat, "and nothing you do can change that." I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The look in my eyes said everything. I wasn't backing down. Not now. Not ever. The officers led him to the back of the squad car and slammed the door. The car pulled away into the night, leaving me standing in the empty driveway, breath ragged, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel like I had won. But I felt something else. The weight of responsibility, heavy on my shoulders, clearer than ever before. This wasn't over. But I was going to make damn sure the next chapter was on my terms. I swallowed hard. The words felt like they were coming from someone else, someone who'd fought long enough to be heard. The judge paused, shifting his gaze between the two of us. "Given the circumstances and the severity of the situation, this court is awarding Mr. Healy full custody of Sheridan and Helena, effective immediately. A temporary restraining order against Byron Dubois will be issued, prohibiting him from contact with the children pending the criminal investigation." I didn't look at Dakota. I couldn't. I knew what I'd see, the same smirk, the same coldness. But this time, I didn't care. Her face was fading from my thoughts, buried in everything I had to rebuild for my girls. The judge's gavel hit the wood. "This hearing is adjourned." The silence in the room felt suffocating. It wasn't victory. It wasn't peace. It was a shift, a small but powerful one. I stood up, my knees stiff, but I wasn't going to break. Not now. Becky was the first to move, coming up beside me with her quiet strength. She wrapped a hand around my shoulder, and Butch's stoic presence followed. Her usual scowl softened just enough to let a look of approval slip through. I could feel my heart racing, but it wasn't out of fear anymore. I turned to see Sheridan and Helena. Sheridan's face was still tight, like she was bracing for something. But Helena? She smiled at me, a tentative, fragile thing, but it was there. I reached out, touching the side of her cheek. "Hey," I said quietly. "You okay?" Her smile grew, and for the first time in a long time, it felt like maybe we could heal. "Yeah," she whispered. "We're okay now." My heart swelled, a mix of pride and protectiveness. This wasn't the end, not by a long shot. But it was the start of something new. We walked out of the courtroom together. The air felt different, lighter. The burden of the past, the one Dakota and Byron tried to chain me to, was starting to break away. I wasn't alone. And I wasn't going to let anyone take that from me. Not ever again. And as we stepped out into the sunlight, the world didn't seem so cold, not with them by my side. The weight of the moment settled over me like a heavy blanket. The courtroom, the officers dragging Dakota away, the chaos, it all faded into a background hum. The only thing that mattered was the feel of Sheridan and Helena in my arms, the way their small bodies clung to me like they were afraid the world might pull them apart again. I pressed my cheek against Sheridan's hair, inhaling the familiar scent of her, the soft, steady rhythm of her breathing. Helena was holding on so tight, her little fingers digging into the fabric of my shirt like it was a lifeline. I wanted to say something, anything to make them feel okay. But the truth was, I didn't have the right words. The silence between us was heavier than anything I'd ever experienced, but somehow it felt right. We didn't need to talk. Not yet. When we finally pulled apart, Sheridan's eyes were still wet, but there was something else in them too, a flicker of hope, the tiniest spark that hadn't been there before. "Come on," I said quietly, brushing a tear from her cheek. "Let's get out of here." We left the courtroom, the doors swinging shut behind us with a finality that sent a shiver down my spine. The weight of the decision hung over us, but it wasn't just a weight. It was a shield now. It was protection. And we were walking into a new chapter, one where I was finally able to be the father I'd always wanted to be for them. Becky and Butch were waiting outside. Becky's eyes softened when she saw the girls, and even Butch's usual stoic demeanor cracked just a little. "How are you holding up?" Becky asked, her voice gentle but firm. "We're okay," I said, my voice stronger than I expected. "They're safe now." Sheridan nodded, wiping her eyes and offering a small, brave smile. "We're really okay." Helena, on the other hand, clung to my side as we walked, her little hand still gripping mine tightly. She wasn't ready to let go. I wasn't ready to make her. We got to the car, and I helped them both inside. As I slid into the driver's seat, I realized something. I was more than just their protector. I was their father. I'd fought to be that for them, and now that fight was over. For the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace settle in my chest. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were healing. And as we drove off, I knew it wasn't the end. It was just the beginning.